All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving our praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. And even though it's Tuesday, today is Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. There's going to be another episode of Missile Monday. And I have this article from Fortune.com, and it says space. Russia is building a space nuke that could wipe out every satellite in orbit, U.S. warns. So I'm just going to go into this article, read a few scriptures. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying and straight to the point. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will leave it in the description box. It's a bit of a lengthy read, but it's interesting. So it says, as Russia held its Victory Day parade this year, hackers backing the Kremlin hijacked an orbiting satellite that provides television service to Ukraine. Instead of normal programming, Ukrainian viewers saw parade footage beamed in from Moscow. Waves of tanks, soldiers, and weaponry. The message was meant to intimidate and was an illustration that 21st century war is waged not just on land, sea, and air, but also in cyberspace and the reaches of outer space. It's lucky because this site is kind of jumping. It says disabling a satellite could deal a devastating blow without one bullet, and it can be done by targeting the satellite security software or disrupting its ability to send or receive signals from Earth. If you can impede a satellite's ability to communicate, you can pause a signal. If you can impede a satellite's ability to communicate, you can cause a significant disruption, said Tom Pace, CEO of NetRise, a cybersecurity firm focused on protecting supply chains. Think about GPS, said Pace, who served in the Marines before working on cyber issues at the Department of Energy. Imagine if a population lost that and the communication it would cause. And people are going to lose this, man. A cyber attack is going to take place just like, an EMP. Now, this isn't surprising that Russia is pretty much, they either already have it or they're in the works of developing, a missile that can take out satellites. Well, China has an EMP missile, so it's not surprising that, they're speaking of these particular things, So it says, satellites are the short-term challenge. More than 12,000 operating satellites now orbit the planet, playing a critical role not just in broadcast programming, not just in broadcast communications, but also in military operations, navigation systems like GPS, intelligence gathering, and economic supply chains. They are also key to early launch detection efforts, which can warn of approaching missiles that can make them a significant national security vulnerability and a prime target for anyone looking to undermine an adversary's economy or military readiness, or deliver a psychological blow like the hackers supporting Russia did when they hijacked television signals to Ukraine. So I'm going to read a little bit more. So it says, hackers typically look for the weakest link in the software or hardware that supports a satellite or controls its communications with Earth. The actual orbiting device. The actual orbiting device may be secure, but if it's running on outdated software, it can be easily exploited. A Russian forces, it's like it as Russian forces invaded Ukraine in 2022, someone targeted Viasat, the US-based satellite company used by Ukraine's government and military. The hack, which Kyiv blamed on Moscow, used malware to infect tens of thousands of modems, creating an outage affecting wide swaths of Europe. Says the national security officials say Russia is developing a nuclear space-based weapon designed to take out vulnerability. It's like a designed to take out virtually every satellite in low Earth orbit at once. The weapon could combine a physical attack that would ripple outward, destroying more satellites, while the nuclear component is used to fry their electronics. U.S. officials declassified information about the weapon after representative, or if not, all right, well, after Rep. Turner, it's like, yeah, after Mike Turner, Republican Ohio, issued a public warning about the technology. Turner has pushed for the Department of Defense to provide a declassified, it's like a classified briefing to lawmakers on the weapon, which, if deployed, would violate an international treaty prohibiting weapons of mass destruction in space. Turner said such a weapon could render low Earth orbit unusable for satellites for as long as a year. If it were used, the effects would be devastating. The effects would be devastating, potentially leaving the U.S. and its allies vulnerable to economic upheaval and a nuclear attack. And that's what's going to happen. America is going to be left vulnerable because, again, the power is going to go out. Communications are going to be lost. Troops are going to be sent overseas to go and fight, thus leaving America completely vulnerable. So once these things happen, again, it's going to be, that much easier for these different nations, primarily Russia, to wage war against Babylon. Because this is the time that we're in, man. So I was going to read these last couple sentences and that'll be it. These damn ads, man. It says Russia and China also will lose satellites, though they are believed to be less reliant on the same kinds of satellites as the U.S. Turner compared the weapon, which is not yet ready for deployment, to Sputnik, the Russian satellite that launched the space age in 1957. If this anti-satellite nuclear weapon would be put in space, it would be the end of the space age, Turner said. It should never be permitted to go into outer space. This is the Cuban Missile Crisis in space. So again, man, he's comparing, this current situation to the Cuban Missile Crisis, And again, this is what Russia wanted to do. If I'm not mistaken, it may have been either sometime last year or a couple years ago. But I remember hearing about how, there is a treaty where pretty much the U.S. and Russia, or if not those two countries only, but these different nations, they can't put nuclear weapons in space, because there's a particular treaty. But it's not going to matter, because again, these nukes that are on the earth are going to be used, So again, I'll mention China yet again. They have an EMP missile. So again, they can sit that, they can send it over here to the U.S. Then it can fry all the electronics. We don't know when it's going to happen. or exactly how, but we do know that there's going to be a power outage here in America. Things are going to be hard out here. China has an EMP missile. Now Russia wants to develop a anti-satellite missile, man. So pretty much these different nations are targeting America's weak points, because obviously that's one thing that, everyone here in America relies on are these satellites, man. And one thing mainly these satellites do is, help us, communicate, being able to, make cell phone calls, browse the internet, just like it says to use GPS, these different things, man. If this happens, man, and they take these satellites out, then America is vulnerable, So if, war is declared and World War III kicks off, which we know won't happen yet until, the mark of the beast is made mandatory, that America is going to be defenseless. Excuse me. Excuse me, Slovakia. But America is going to be left defenseless, So I'm just going to grab a few scriptures. I want to start with the book of Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 16. And it says, Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy and right, man. These modern day scientists and physicists that are on the earth today, they are developing these weapons, because what does a blacksmith do? They create weapons of war, and these scientists and physicists aren't just creating any weapons of war, they're creating weapons of mass destruction, because these nuclear weapons that are on the earth today, these missiles, have the capability of destroying the earth, literally, But as it stands, or as it says in the scriptures, the earth abideth forever. So the entire planet Earth will not be destroyed during World War III, but particular lands will be. As we know, America will be completely destroyed, And that waster to destroy, the instrument for his work is talking about the nuclear missiles themselves, So I'm going to get the book of Isaiah chapter, Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 5. And it says, For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire and right, man. This coming Third World War, is not going to be a traditional war like how ancient warfare was fought, man. Hand-to-hand combat, men having these different weapons of war, swords, spears, shields, bow and arrows, charging each other, in the center of the battlefield, man. It's not going to be like that, This coming world war is going to be fought with this nuclear technology, And as I mentioned, as always, you will have ground troops that are going to be going to war with each other, But this war is primarily going to be fought with these missiles, So I'm going to get the book of Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 4. And it says, The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people. A tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts musters the host of the battle. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. And right, man, the noise of a multitude is talking about, those thousands upon thousands of, missiles, the warheads in particular, that are going to be headed toward America. because there's going to be so many of them launched. You're going to hear them, you're going to hear that rocket propulsion system guiding them, man, because there's going to be so many. It's going to make a very loud noise, and it says they come from a far country, meaning they're going to be shot from one end of the earth and land on the other side. So missiles will be shot from, I'm just going to say, the east, and they're going to land in the west, even though missiles are going to be shot from all over. But the good majority of them are going to come from the east, Russia in particular, and it says to destroy the whole land. America as a whole is going to be destroyed. Isaiah, the 34th chapter, gives a very vivid description of how America is going to look after this destruction takes place. It's going to be left completely desolate. No man will ever inhabit this land again after this war, and this is the time they're in, So didn't want to make this one too long. Just going to grab a couple more, and that'll be it. I'm going to start with the book of Revelation, chapter 7 and verse 1. And it says, "And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree." And right, man, these are 4 literal angels holding back the 4 winds, which the 4 winds represent the destruction, which is World War III, that coming Third World War. They're holding it back, because those angels, have charge over this, because there's a set time when this war is going to take place, Verse 2, "And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living power. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our power in their foreheads." And right, man, until the mark of the beast is made mandatory, and until the elect, are completely sealed, this destruction will not take place. Because again, there is a set time when this war is going to take place, So it's real quick. There's the book of Revelation, chapter 11 and verse 14. And it says, "The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly." And right, man, World War III is coming quickly. We just still have one major prophecy that we're looking out for. Obviously, the time of Jacob's trouble, is going to be part of that prophecy. Again, the mark of the beast, which is the RFID microchip being made mandatory. And, then that's when this destruction is going to take place, once the elect are sealed, So I'm going to end it with this. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 9 and verse 15. And it says, "And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of men." And right, man, there's a particular hour, day, month, and year when this war is going to take place. There is a set time when the Heavenly Father wants the destruction of Babylon the Great, aka America, to take place, And this is for, to slay the third part of men, because you have 3 classes of men on the earth. You have the sons of God, which today are the biblical Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, from the tribe of Judah, all the way down to the tribe of Issachar. Then you have the sons of men, which are you different heathen nations, And you have the sons of the wicked, which would be the nation of Edom, you so-called white people. That's who this destruction is for. Edom, the third part of man. This is who this destruction is for. Esau, Edom. Because the same way you came into power is the same way you're going to be taken out of power. By violence, So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the artists of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till next time I say,